It's fall, and that means time for winter tires. Nokian offer the Hakkapeliitta R5 studless winter tire and the Hakkapeliitta 10 studded winter tire, both made for Nordic conditions. For more information on the tire of my choice for more than 10 years, check the links down below. This is the iCar V23, a small electric off-roader, which kind of looks like a mixture between a Jeep Wrangler, a G-Wagon, a little bit of Toyota Land Cruiser here and there, obviously inspired by a lot of the traditional old school off-roaders, but in a smaller package and fully electric. And rumors are that this car is going to come to Europe already in 2026 and may start as low as below 30,000 euros. And for that, I think you're gonna get a lot of car here. So in today's video, I'm gonna give you guys a full review of the iCar V23. Before we continue the review of the iCar V23, I just want to ask you guys a very small favor, which is completely free and takes you 2 seconds, and that is subscribing to the channel, because the car manufacturers really care about subscriber count, and the more subscribers I have, the more launches and events I will be invited to. For example, coming here to China to drive the iCar V23 before much of the Western media. So I would really appreciate your support to continue growing this channel to one of the best EV testing channels here on YouTube. So thanks a lot, guys. Hit that subscribe button if you like the content, if you want more content, and also just to support me in my mission to, go to more launches, more events, and more test drives. Unlike the JQ J5, which is a blatant copy of a Range Rover, the V23 is more like a collection of the greatest hits. There's a little Wrangler here, a little Land Cruiser there, and a little bit of G-Wagon sprinkled in over the top. Personally, I love it. It manages to have presence and command attention, but at the same time being quite small at only 4.22 meters long. There's not a single bad angle or surface on this rugged EV. This is a proper SUV, a proper off-roader. There are side steps here. You have to climb up into the car. There are grab handles. So this is the real deal, at least from a feeling perspective. But we did get to drive this off-road on an off-road course in the rain, in the mud, and it was impressive because of the short overhangs, the short wheelbase. This is one capable off-roading machine. This is an impressive car. And when you step into it, it's as impressive as the outside. They could have easily made it cheap. For example, I just reviewed, the JQ J5, which is kind of like a Range Rover copy, but in miniature. That had a cheap interior. This does not at all. So first off, the ambiance here is on point. You have grab handles, you have, this upright windscreen, you have this flat dashboard with chunky controls. You have some of the best knobs and switches I've felt in a car, period. You have this chunky drive mode selector here. You have, one of the best volume knobs. Here it feels like it comes out of like an 80s or 90s stereo receiver. It looks awesome. You also have your temperature over here, your fan speed, and it is just one of the coolest dashboard designs, in my opinion, in recent memory. You have some toggle switches down here, for your heated windshield, your defroster for your rear. There's also a programmable button there, and up here you also have auxiliary switches 1 and 2 for exterior lights and accessories. So this is pretty cool. They have not saved on anything here, and also the materials pretty decent. You have some faux leather here on the dashboard, on the doors. It just feels solid, and also these seats are pretty nice and comfortable. I have a really nice high driving position, a great view out of the greenhouse, and then you have that off-roader flat hood. You just feel like you're invincible behind the wheel of this car. It really does feel like a mini G-Wagon from behind the wheel, but at a fraction of the price. Infotainment system screen, I haven't used it too much, but it has been quite responsive. 15.4 inches. It is in Chinese, but once these cars come to Europe, of course, they're going to have, you know, English and other European languages. And also a very cool looking, really nice integrated 8.9-inch driver display in front of the driver. Here you also have, you know, physical switches and knobs. You have your gear selector here, your window wiper and blinkers over here. And the room it's pretty decent. I mean, you have lots of headroom. My knee is maybe a little bit close, but it does feel spacious and airy, especially for a vehicle this short. So you may think because this is a short car that you're gonna get limited rear seat space. And that was my first thoughts when I saw this car for the first time at the Shanghai Auto Show earlier this year. But it couldn't be further from the truth. Yes, there is a compromise. I'm going to show you that, guys, in a second. But the rear seat accommodation for being a short car that is only 4.22 meters long is impressive. I have massive amounts, and I mean massive amounts, of knee room and leg room. I'm 180 centimeters or 5'11", sitting behind myself, and headroom is massive. I mean, the seat base is high off the floor, so I have a really nice seating position, really nice under thigh support, and there is plenty of room for my feet to slide underneath the front seats. But there is a compromise on the interior as well as here. I'm going to show you guys in a second, and that is the width of the car, because it is not very wide. So there is a third seat belt here, so you can sit three in the middle, but you're basically sitting on top of two seats sat together. There is still pretty decent knee room, and the cabin isn't as, you know, narrow as you would have thought, but I think this is more comfortable for 4 people, and it is very comfortable for 4 people because there is a lot of room for 2 passengers in the rear. As I've mentioned earlier, the V23 is quite a small car, at least in length, only 4.22 meters long, which is a centimeter shorter than the Volvo EX30, just to put that into context. So there has to be a compromise somewhere, and the compromise is in the trunk capacity, because with the second row up, there's only 234 liters, at least on paper, which is quite a bit smaller than the Volvo EX30. But I'm going to show you guys that in reality, it's actually not bad. I mean, I don't think I could sit in an EX30 like this. And if you put the second row down, there's more than like 760 liters. Okay, let's take the V23 out for a test drive. So the infotainment system is in Chinese. I have my contact person here who does speak Chinese and English, but he said there's no one-pedal drive mode for this car. Not sure if that is accurate, but hopefully once this does come to Europe, it will have one pedal drive, because there's very weak regen. But you know, being an EV, that should be really easy to solve software wise. So there are 3 versions available, at least here in China, and this is the top spec. This is the S version, so it has a usable battery capacity a little more than 80 kilowatt hours. Also, this is the only version on sale now which has all-wheel drive, 455 horsepower, and I'm going to put all the specs for you on the screen now because I don't know them by heart. They're pretty bad at giving us, you know, accurate information, and also consistent information, and also information in one place. It's usually like, yeah, we're gonna give you a little bit of information here, and then you're gonna get a little bit of information there. So that's why I don't always have information on hand. But this is a car that could have been really bad to drive. I mean, I drove the J5 yesterday, and it was pretty noisy on the road. We actually had to stop and check that, you know, that the windows and doors were properly closed. And it just felt like a cheap car. And again, I don't know what this is going to cost, especially this V23 S version once it comes to Europe. I'm guessing it's going to be quite a bit more expensive than the JQ J5, which is a front-wheel drive car with a 60 kilowatt-hour battery pack. So obviously, if you just look at the specs, if you look at the performance, the battery pack size, this should be more expensive. And it does feel like a much more expensive product, because this car is, yeah, pretty decent to drive actually. I mean, a lot of Chinese cars are often very softly sprung to be comfortable, because in a lot of places, like here in Wuhu, the roads are pretty bad, pretty bad, like full of potholes, they're bumpy, and they're not well kept up. So having soft suspension a compliant ride is essential for, you know, having a comfortable life in a car. So tuning is different than what we're used to in Europe, where the suspensions are pretty, you know, much more taut and stiff. You have much more body control. But I'm happy to report that this actually is a lot better to drive than that J5. There's nearly not as much, you know, suspension noise, and also it's actually quite compliant without being, you know, uncomfortable, without being too soft. There's a little bit of, you know, underdamping issues on the rear axle. Once the road gets really bad, you can feel like the rear can't cope with, you know, with the motions and how frequent the bumps can come on these bad roads. And yeah, you just, these guys here in China, doesn't even check his blinds on. He just moves over to the left, no, you know, indicators or anything. So here you really have to be on your toes while driving, because people just change lanes like, yeah, it's nothing. But, you know, this car isn't as soft as other cars that I've driven here in China or in Europe. You know, I just had the IIcar X on loan in Norway, and that was way too soft. I mean, underdamp, undersprung. The STELANTIS ET, which is also a Chery Group brand. iCar is a Chery Group brand. We're here with Chery Group. They have factories and facilities all over the place, to my right, to my left. They have a big presence in the city. The hotel we're staying at is pretty much owned by them, but leased out to the Hilton. So yeah, we're here with them, and this is one of their brands. So the STELANTIS ET on air suspension, a much, you know, more premium car than this, was way too soft in its tuning. I would even hit the bump stops over speed bumps when I had that car alone in Norway. This feels more, you know, sophisticated, or not more sophisticated. It feels more refined. It feels like they've spent more time tuning the suspension. But when the roads get really bad, you can feel, you know, it is a little bit too soft, but it's not too bad. And this car is still probably a year away from being launched in Europe, so they still have time to refine the product. They still have time to, you know, tune it for the European market. But as it is now, it's not bad. And also here you can see that the light turns something in 5 seconds, but here it says it's going to turn green again in 30 seconds. No, okay, so that does not correspond with that, because it should say green. Because I was going to make a point that that's pretty cool here in China, that, you know, the car syncs with the lights here, and they have, you know, timers, but that didn't work very nice or very well here. But, you know, this car, not a performance car, but it does have, you know, 455 horsepower, and it does get going. It does get going once you press the accelerator pedal, and the tuning isn't too bad. The regen here is much more refined and better tuned than the J5 I drove yesterday. Everything about this just feels more premium. So I'm pretty excited and interested in what this will actually cost, this all-wheel drive version, because it may cost, I'm just guessing, once you have, you know, the European import taxes, once you have the European dealer network, once you have, you know, Europeans working on European salary, and you have the European warranties, and the car has to be shipped to their tariffs, this could easily be costing twice as much as it does here. And here, this is about 23,000 euros. So it may cost 45 to even 50,000 euros once it hits Europe. But even at that price point, is there anything as cool as this? Is there anything that offers this package at that price? Yes, it is a small vehicle, but it's big on the inside. It's only small in the exterior dimensions, lengthwise. So there we go, guys. That was my review of the iCar V23S. And in my opinion, this is one of the coolest, if not the coolest electric car to come to the market this year. Well, it hasn't actually come to the market, but which I have test driven and reviewed this year. Because where else can you get a cool looking off-road vehicle like this at a price point we don't know yet specifically, but it's going to be pretty reasonable. It's going to be somewhere between 45 to 55,000 euros for this top spec S version once it comes to Europe. and maybe we're gonna get the cheaper versions with two-wheel drive. But either way, the package here is pretty cool. It looks great on the outside. It has a great interior and is actually very practical for this size of vehicle. The only thing, the range, not the best, the charging speed, not the fastest, but there has to be a compromise somewhere when it comes to a vehicle at this price point. But I think this is one of the coolest and one of the most awesome offerings to come from any electric brand in a long time. So let me know, guys, are you excited about the V23 in the comment section down below. So I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please drop me a thumbs up down below, and for more car content, as always, please subscribe. See you guys later and goodbye.